you to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Cat Crab Lobster, Duck Machine, Try Again 95, Astraya the Dreamer, Mezec, Budic Joel, Germanchemist, Casper Arnholtz, and Chaos to Must. Thank you very much. The Engineer, written by Pickpokcet. Clad in tattered clothes, which hung listlessly from its frame, the figure weaved its way through the busy port-cum-market. Every few movements, an odd skip shuffle as they twirled and shifted around far larger and far bulkier beings. Each dexterous dodge joined with a faint clank of metal tools and a groan of an overladen pack. It was this poorly balanced sight which first greeted Marjarin, a Huron in the middle adult stage, and this odd, well-wrapped entity which extended a hand, the tattered fabrics receding slightly to reveal a set of 5 pink, near-porcelain digits. At first, this oddly delicate structure caught his attention, only for a single visible pupil of almost radiant green hidden beneath the deep hood and almost Vanta-black fur, which later would be explained to him as hair, to steal his focus entirely. "You posted for an engineer?" For the distinct difference in apparent height and approximate form, the creature spoke Huri to near perfection, a fact which only slicked when the universal translator finished converting the speech into galactic common. "So, when do I start?" An odd weight found itself threaded through the unbeat intonation, a view of lead woven into a mixture of excitement and pride. "Oh, I've got a box being delivered to the space soon, just so you know." "You, the engineer. Yes, this way." Gesturing up to the lowered ramp, the Huron turned slightly, paused mid-step. "What are you, engineer? You're too small for Karak, too thin for Jurin, and you certainly are no phage. So you can just call me engineer, or E, I guess, if you really want." Without waiting, they set off once more, booted feet carrying the wrapped figure up the ramp, causing Marjarin to have to start jogging to catch up. "That doesn't answer my question. Is what I am that important? This is the room. There are pirates and adventure. That is all that is important. No? I suppose so. Okay then. Why did you sign on? It's hardly the most comfortable ship, and in the least safe portion of the galaxy. Whither the wild wind blows, so goes too my heart. That I'm just going where the solar winds blow me. A wanderer, then. Did the backpack give that away? No. Well, yes. Never mind. This way." With a sigh, he placed a hand against the pad recessed into the wall, waiting for a moment before the door opened. "Need to scan my right hand, get all the permission and stuff set up. Got it?" Unwrapping a hand, the appendage was then pressed to the scanner, ending in a gentle bleep and a ping. Biometric print now registered. They turned back, grinning at the Huron. A deeply unsettling display of teeth, some for the grinding, some for tearing, all clear demarcation of a predator. "Where to next, Captain?" spoke the entity, with its rows of bone razors. The Huron captain had been right about the lack of comfort the engineer had allowed herself to concede. The cabin allotted to them was tucked in beside the engine room, which meant 2 things. 1, it was hot, uncomfortably so. Clearly whoever had planned out the accommodations had forgotten to consider habitability for the space. 2, it was oddly shaped. The entire floor plan square, save for the half-moon cut out where the engine itself backed against the room. An unfortunate situation, which led to the bed being raised to just under 2 feet from the ceiling. But still, it worked for their purposes. There was a small desk and a few power ports, snug but livable if occupant had some form of passive cooling, that is. Kneading, they began to go through the backpack, withdrawing a toolkit as large as their torso before setting it down and returning to the pack once more, retrieving a square plate which was dutifully set against the wall. A button press later, then the plate extended out to a full-length mirror. A slight sigh escaped the lips as the last of the unwrappings were removed. The shoulder length, light-absorbing black hair swaying slightly under the effects of the forcefully boosted air cycle vent. She felt good, standing there playfully throwing a few stupid poses at the mirror. It definitely looked good to see fibrous muscle dance beneath painted skin. A smile crept across her lips then, the expression widening as the telltale feeling of a ship-breaking orbit rumbled beneath her feet. Onwards and upwards, a mumbled phrase, offered to no one in particular as they returned to the toolkit, hoisting a mass of metal and plastic in a way that would have had the captain staring in disbelief. Time to see what I'm working with. The ship itself followed through on the theme. Old military surplus clunker from border wall, so minor and so old, no one really remembered or cared about it. To this, a cargo bay had been welded. At least, it was space-worthy. Well, space-worthy enough. The entire motif pulled together by the half-dozen crew members and their half-dozen species. A thrown-together ship with a thrown-together crew. This excited the engineer, almost as much as the chance to tinker with the sublight engines excited them. Something that they knew inspired equal parts curiosity and fear in the captain over the last few days. But the captain was neither here nor there at present. The work request had been clear, and the rising Carrick would be FTL for the next 12 hours or so. Therefore, the engineer set to work. There is something truly humbling about seeing plasma manifolds disassembled and stacked in a sorting system so complex it would appear as chaos to the untrained eye. Or perhaps it simply was a kind of carefully curated chaos. Something more inspiring in watching an odd furless ape creature with painted flesh and an apparent need for a very little clothing clamber and swing across the multi-million credit engine bay like it was a child's playroom. It was only further terrifying to watch said ape disconnect a live thermal pump and then jack that still active pump directly into the sublight buffer. Equal parts terrifying and mesmerizing. The ape abruptly let go of the pipe that they were hanging from, allowing their form to fall a few feet before both hands shot out to grab a passing support, the momentum being used to swing them up and over, legs hooking over the bar as she then hung inverted, staring at the observer. "Can I help you, little guy?" The alien blinked slightly, the sudden speech from the ape breaking him finally out of the strange mesmerization that had settled upon his shoulders since the moment he'd entered the bay. I needed to ask about..." A bead of clear liquid formed and slowly ran down the ape's abdomen, leaving a faint trail which glimmered under the glow cast of the engine. Cocking her head slightly, their features contorted in confusion, followed by a ripple passing through its form as the engineer shifted themselves. "Ask about what, little guy?" That was a little insulting. After all, Zinni was a full head taller than his broodmates. It wasn't his fault this ape engineer stood a good 2 heads above the tallest Alctian. It took all he could do to avoid rising to the insult, however unwitting it may have been. "Yes, I need to ask about... It was growing harder and harder to think straight in this heat. His tongue lolled out of a desperate attempt to radiate away the excess heat somehow. Shower. The word was offered at near whine as the oppressive atmosphere seemed to weigh heavier. With a slight shrug, the ape simply let go then, descending in a freefall only to land with a solid but oddly harmless kathunk against the floor plating. She straightened up and gestured towards the bay doors again, making a concerning series of high-pitched squeaks as it followed him out. It was fascinating watching the ape work with the plumbing, seeing how quickly damaged pipes were isolated, removed and replaced, only serving to sire more questions as to why it had not been repaired sooner. The captain surely could have spared some money months ago for this. The ape, to her credit, didn't seem all that bothered by his hovering, or by the way he kept asking questions. In fact, she had found it rather endearing, watching the little red panda-esque being handing her requested tools and holding parts in that adorable way. It led to more than a few tense moments when he would try and avoid her hands as the engineer subconsciously reached out to pet him like some common animal. I have another question. Holding out the size 30 square ball wrench, Zinni finally decided to voice his thoughts. And that'll be... What actually are you? I mean, what species are you? It's really not that important. You're not going to find any more. They headed out the other direction entirely. Well, where are you from then? Past the galactic rim, pretty much on the other side of the local group from what I can put together. How are you from past the rim? You couldn't cross that distance in a whole lifetime. You'd be surprised. Okay, fine. Those paintings on your back, are they tribal markings? No, not tribal markings. Not all of them. What do you, do all of your kind have them? Oh, no. In fact, some places wouldn't even hire you if you have them. Why would they discriminate over tribal markings? My kind are just, they drew a lot of arbitrary lines in places. Deftly, the engineer withdrew a small pouch from her kit, piercing it with the provided straw and taking a large gulp. Why are you so wet? Bursting into a spluttering cough as a mouthful of fluey pack first went down the wrong hole and then proceeded to coat the opposite wall of the electrolyte mess of rehydrants. Are you okay? Are you injured? No, I'm fine. For a few minutes the silence settled, Zinni afraid to raise any further questions, and the engineer clearly not interested in restriking conversation. So, you said there are tribal marks? It was a tentative question, offered in a low, grumbling tone that signaled apologies to the Actuan. Yeah, at least you guys call them that. We call them tattoos. Tattoos? And do they still mark one's tribe? They can. We use them for a whole mess of things. Feck, here. Setting down the wrench, she stood up, having to keep her knees partially bent so as to allow herself to see the massive images on the bathroom's mirror. Okay, see this one? That's for my brother. He was the best damn pilot I ever knew. She pointed at the depiction of a pitch-black object, all sleek angles and burning engines. And this one is from the 3rd Colonial Engineers. Again, her fingers shifted, pointing to the large image which took up the greater part of skin over the upper center of her back. What appeared to be a planet, behind which a rifle and a wrench sat crossed. What are these 3rd Colonial Engineers your clan? Does your kind have clans for every profession? My clan, I guess you could say that, yeah. A clan, sure, that's my clan. Call 3, a clan of 1. She shifted slightly, eyes dancing over the rest of the tapestry covering her back. The more personal marks hidden by a band of fabric protecting what little dignity remained. Her face contorted slightly, then as memories behind the art began to rise. She ducked back down abruptly after returning to loosening a bolt in what she would hope to be silence. Why is it a clan of 1? Because it is. But why? Are you the clan matriarch? Surely there must be some males or other females out there. There was a look, one that turned the Actian's blood to ice under its piercing, withering gaze. No more questions. To his credit, Zinni fell silent and remained so till the task was completed, and the engineer stalked off into the dimly lit corridor. He enjoyed a nice, cold, long shower after that, letting icy water take the sweat, heat, and awkwardness away with it. By the time the luxury was over, he had lodged a mental note to inquire about doing something to reduce the ambient temperature of the ship as a whole. After the engineer had time to cool off, of course. Or at least after she had managed to move past his little faux pas. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video.